All right, so welcome to another episode of the Otaku Informers. This time here for a video game report to talk about the news that every studio in the world is being owned by Embracer Group, which I'm not sure who the Embracer Group is, except that they recently bought for $300 million the Crystal Dynamics, I think, that owns like Lara Croft. Tell us more, Matt, since you're the one who is going to inform us about this.
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. So basically, all the knowledge I have about this is from other podcasts, like Sacred Symbols and Kind of Funny, and all these other ones I listened to. That's how I found out about, well, learned about this. But basically, Embracer Group is this Swedish video game company who's just lately has been buying up everything. And so one of the things I found interesting was how there was a Swedish video game group that basically bought the rights to THQ back when THQ went under and bankrupt. Then this Swedish video game company was like, okay, we'll buy the rights to the THQ name, we'll buy all of their properties and all that stuff, and we'll do something with it. And then they called themselves THQ Nordic, and that's how Darksiders 3 came out, and like a few other games came out. I
Hmm.
just found out like today that THQ Nordic is actually part of Embracer Group. And I'm like, oh my god, Embracer Group controls everything and it's scary. Um, they even control Lord of the Rings now. Embrace in their newest Yes, in their newest round of purchases, one of the things that they bought was let me just find it. It's basically all of the copyright for uh, Lord of the Rings games, books, movies.
Really?
So they basically control most of what you can do uh with the license, with the Lord of the Rings
Hmm.
license, which was really, really interesting. I'm like, okay, why did a video game company decide to buy out basically the whole Lord of the Rings
That
franchise?
is crazy.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So what you're telling me that this company is basically the Disney of the gaming world for now. They're gonna probably buy back everything that Microsoft has acquired, everything Sony has acquired. Eventually they'll become the by and large from the Pixar universe in real life. Is that what you're
It's
telling me?
starting to look like that. So in August 18 was their newest round of purchases, and they bought the Lord of the Rings Hobbit intellectual properties. They bought a few smaller studios, and then you guys know Limited Run Games, this the company that makes like the limited run games, right? They bought that whole company. So they were just like, yeah, we'll just buy all of that whole idea, that whole
Limited
thing. It's like
limited run games, what have they made before? Is
they've
it
made they've published a lot of smaller indie games, or they've
mm,
reissued lots of older games that are harder to find. They've reissued physical editions of games. They've also, I think they've made a few games, but mostly they're more of a publisher.
I see.
Um,
The name ring sounds familiar, so I just did a quick googling. Some games include Doom, like the Doom
Really?
franchise. Yeah, Doom franchise publishing or otherwise includes Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, I think.
What?
There's Shantae also, the new
yeah,
OG
they
franchise.
publish all sorts of games, all sorts of
Yeah.
smaller games.
Interesting. Well, me on the picture that I have up already, you can see that they had Lara Croft, they had Deus Ex, which already are two pretty big games, but if you add to this like Lord of the Rings, that's huge. Me, there's one thing I'm hoping for. I can't believe that we still, up until today, don't have a good, not even just online, well, a good online Lord of the Rings games. Because if you think about it, World of Warcraft, which is literally based on, well, inspired on the Tolkien world, is huge. And in the last 20 years, we still haven't had an MMO from Lord of the Rings, which I find pretty sad. So I just hope that Embracer Group is going to fix that and give us a good Lord of the Rings massively online multiplayer game. So is there anything else to talk about with the Embracer Group owning everything?
Before I ask for your guys' opinion a little bit more, I have the Wikipedia page up that has everything that they've purchased so far, and I'll just name a few some big highlights. So they own Gearbox, the company that makes Borderlands,
Oh,
and
really?
like
Big one. Oh my gosh.
they made Duke Nukem. They own Gearbox. So
And Borderlands is a very good online game. So if they own Gearbox, that would be a good first step into like having the expertise to make a good Lord of the Rings online game. Like you can make it
yeah,
first-person shooter too, just like Borderlands.
they own Saber Interactive, which has a lot of smaller things in it. So like New World, that Amazon
What?
MMO,
Yeah, I
the
played
company that
yeah.
yeah, the company that made that for Amazon is owned by Embracer.
That's crazy. Wow. And
Uh,
honestly, I got all the way to max level in New World, and except the fact that it was lacking a lot of content, it was a really good game, like gameplay wise. Damn.
So
Tripwire, yeah, Tripwire, the company that made Killing Floor, that used to be a really
They
popular zombie game on PC. They own that studio.
what? Well, they
Um,
really do own everything now.
they
Very
own
interesting.
a really famous studio that's known for making ports for Mac. So Aspire, who's actually working on the
KOTOR.
Knights of the Old Republic remake, right? So they
Yeah.
own those guys too. Um,
Um, so were they the ones who were making it before it went to Saber Interactive? Because I know the KOTOR remake, there was a big news recently because PlayStation showed it as one of their exclusives on PS5, and then recently we found out that the management within it was either Aspire or Saber was so bad that they almost canceled the game of KOTOR remake, and now
right.
apparently it's going to Saber Interactive, right?
Well, Aspire is owned by Saber, and then Saber is owned by Embracer Group. So it's
Wow.
all just like this big, big lump of everything, right?
And all of this
So
is
it's just
owned by them. Yeah.
you mentioned earlier that
you
this
look
is
at the
Embracer
list
Group.
and you just go, what?
You mentioned earlier that this Embracer Group is a video game company that makes and publishes and everything, but they just sound like a big investor company. Because otherwise it wouldn't explain it. Because I personally never heard of them until like you brought it up that they're becoming their own Disney or Amazon or otherwise. So they were this rich and they've been acquiring so many companies.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a question that a lot of people have had, Felipe. Like, how do they even have the money to do all this? For real.
yeah, one of the big things.
I don't
Everyone's
know.
like, okay, where are you getting all this money? You keep making purchases,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, where's all this money coming from?
It's
But
All right,
true.
think,
I was listening to last note. I was before we end.
No worries.
I was listening to Sacred Symbols today. You got to listen to Sacred Symbols.
Yeah, you do.
Um, and Colin was talking about this, and he said something really interesting. How their profits are actually going down, and like their net worth, Embracer Group as a whole, is losing profit, and like their net worth is going down, but they keep making these purchases. So it's like, what's going on? How is this
hmm.
going? How is this working?
That's
Oh,
true.
I know how tinfoil hat theory. they're actually owned by a tycoon, PewDiePie. That's how.
Yes, the most well-known Swedish person owns Embracer Group. That would be
Of
interesting.
course. And he's controlling from Japan somewhere here.
Yeah, that's true. Uh, I heard the CEO of IKEA just became president of Sweden or something. So I guess it's
Wait, what?
yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
it's true. Like, so I guess they have two important people in Sweden, the guy from Embracer and the CEO of IKEA.
Hey, don't ignore Pewds. Don't ignore Pewds.
Yeah. All right. So that was honestly, I'm glad we talked about it because now I understand it better. I've just been hearing like Embracer Group has been buying everything, but I didn't really know who, what Embracer Group were. So now I have been informed.
Yeah,
Thank you,
same
Matt.
here. But like, I think that I wonder if like it gets more known out there if like other companies like Amazon or Netflix might want to get like even bigger pieces of the gaming pie because they've been like diversifying
Sorry,
so much
yeah.
in the past few years.
Sorry, I was just putting the Twitch on my phone to check. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so considering that like Netflix wants to go into further and like Jeff Bezos like infinite money and acquiring many other companies for streaming and movie making and everything, like if they want to go even further into games, that might cause some competition there, and like they might want to like buy and everything else, and that is not
Well,
good.
right
Yeah.
now it's scary because right now it's really three big companies that own most of the gaming stuff. It's Tencent, right, the
Oh
Chinese
God.
company that also keeps buying stuff up. There's Embracer Group, and then I guess you could count Microsoft as the
Mm-hmm.
third because they're getting pretty big now too, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's just like those three companies are controlling more and more of everything.
As long as Tencent doesn't buy Square Enix, that's all that I care about. Like if
I
Tencent
want
ends up
Sony to buy.
what?
I want
That's
Sony to buy Square. Sony, just
Yeah,
acquire Square, please.
me too. I, I,
yeah,
I, I like, ideally, of course, I understand, like, it's better if Square just remains independent, but if that's gonna make them
Yeah.
a threat to Tencent, I just want, like, anyone but Tencent to buy them. And
yeah. Keep it home, right?
and it's
I
kind of
guess.
sad talking about Tencent since we're on the subject of owning, like, Level Infinite? So Level Infinite, I think they're a branch of Tencent or they're a company that is very adjacent to Tencent. It's a Chinese company. Do you know if they're part of Tencent, Matt? Level
Uh,
Infinite. So anyway, me what I find sad about this is that lately more and more games that I've enjoyed are being made by Level Infinite, which is kind of sad just because I don't want to support this Chinese company, but they're making some pretty good moves. Well, I know that Tower Fantasy, the new waifu MMO that came out recently, that's Level Infinite, and I've played it, and once I was playing it, it was like it's not bad, but I don't want to play a game by them. But we're gonna come back to Level Infinite actually for our next topic.
Level Infinite is owned by Tencent Games. It's one of their brands.
Like I remember, I think it was at the Video Game Awards last year. It was actually Colin who was like, if you notice, so many trailers have the Level Infinite logo at the beginning, meaning all of these companies are Chinese Tencent. They created this Level Infinite brand because they know Tencent is not the best viewed name, so they're just like, it's kind of like Coke making Fanta and hoping that you don't realize that it's Coke.
Yeah.
So anyway.
That's a good comparison.
So all right, so this was our talk on Embracer Group. Thank you for informing us, Matt. And
Yes.
No worries.
stay informed.
Stay informed.